Chapter 196. Once night fell, Raon was the only person standing on their feet in the 5th training ground. We managed to spar like always on top of doing the training ground's maintenance.
Raon grinned while looking at the neat training ground and the swordsmen, who were gasping like fish outside water.
I should thank the typhoon. Arg. Sniff. Damn it.
Upon hearing Raon's cheerful voice, the swordsmen, especially the 30 who messed up the training ground the day before, shed tears of blood while grasping the soft soil.
Yawn.
Rimmer, who had been lying down on the platform and having a sweet dream, stood up while wiping his saliva.
Is it over?
Yes. Yikes, this is seriously scary. His shoulders trembled as he took a look at the swordsman lying all over the place.
I'm really glad that I'm your superior. Rimmer tapped on Raon's shoulders while grinning.
It won't take a long time.
What's that? Raon smiled without answering.
It went without saying that he meant it wouldn't take a long time until he would be Rimmer's superior and make him work. Stopping Rimmer from gambling and making him work was one of the reasons Raon wanted to quickly get stronger and climb in ranks.
I'm getting a bad feeling from your smile. Rimmer broke out into a cold sweat before turning around. Anyway, I'm leaving.
Everyone should leave before you overexert yourselves. Since the swordsmen had already overexerted themselves, they just stayed on the ground without responding.
Raon.
Bayan raised himself while trembling like a leaf fluttering into the wind.
I'm fine with training. I love training, but don't you think it's unnecessary to spar like this every day?
We have other types of training, like the footwork training, polishing our swordsmanship, tempering our stamina and bodies, and the group training with sword formations. He continued with his hands gathered together, as if he were praying or apologizing. Since we did enough sparring for the last month, let's try something else now. I want a systematic and more diversified training, just like you said in the beginning.
What are you talking about?
Raon tilted his head with a sour expression on his face.
Isn't sparring the most systematic way of training?
If it was the only method for training in the world. It can't even be called training at this point since we are just getting beaten up all day long.
Listen.
You temper your body by getting beaten up by me in the training grounds, and dodging my attacks increases your stamina. Moreover, you practice your footwork and swordsmanship all night long in order to stop getting beaten up by me.
Raon raised his fingers one by one to list the training Bayan wanted.
Tempering the body, increasing stamina, practicing swordsmanship and footwork.
Everything you mentioned is included in spars. This is clearly the most systematic training in the world. That's a sophistry.
Swordsmanship and footwork practices aren't included in the spars, and there's no way we are tempering our bodies by getting beaten up.
He's right.
It tempers jack shit, since the pain hasn't decreased in the slightest, even though we got beaten up for a whole month.
That's not training. It's a desperate struggle to survive. Bayan shouted.
The other swordsmen also stood up to raise their hands in agreement. The fastest time for a living creature to get stronger is when their lives are in danger.
Just endure it for a bit longer. He said, a living creature. He doesn't even consider us humans anymore. Damn it. Nothing's getting through to him. It feels like I'm talking to a wall. Damn it.
The swordsman screamed, punching the ground. The fact that barely any dust was rising from their action because of their lack of strength made Raon very slightly sad for them. However, the current training was already significantly lower in intensity compared to the one he had received. He made sure to never leave any aftereffects on them, while his previous life's training often involved bone fractures and attacks that could leave him disabled.
Then, from now on, we will continue sparring. Wah! Kaya! Shit!
Bayan smashed his head on the ground in desperation, Runan screamed silently, and Martha's swearing sounded weak for the first time. After all the other swordsmen left, Raon was standing alone in the training ground as he drew Heavenly Drive.
Shring!
He swung Heavenly Drive with determination, trying to cut through his own shadow as it was created by the moonlight. Whoosh! He wasn't using any swordsmanship nor footwork, yet Heavenly Drive smoothly vibrated and left a silver trajectory in his shadow, as if he were using some noble technique. He kept going, his sword following his heartbeat instead of his brain's directions. The aloof moonlight on the white blade of the heavenly drive spread around the majestic light of the sword. And that sword contained the techniques, principles, and breadth that he had learned so far. The different properties of sword techniques that couldn't harmonize with each other were mixing together slowly to create a spirit that hadn't appeared before. A killer would have called it a killing blade, a knight would call it a righteous blade, and a dancer would have called it an elegant sword dance. That was how mysterious Raon's sword was. Ha! Raon's sword only stopped when the dappled moonlight started flowing down his shoulders. I've progressed. He thought his own development would be halted, but he managed to progress instead. Although he started the training with the intention of making the other swordsmen stronger, he was the one that managed to achieve the most progress.
How did this even happen?
It was mysterious how he became more accomplished with martial arts when all he did was cheerfully beat up the swordsman, who gradually got stronger. He apparently had some characteristic of getting stronger when he beat up other people, just like Sloth, who became stronger when he slept.
Shall I beat them up even more?
Raon chuckled while unsheathing Heavenly Drive.
What you said just now. Wrath nodded, pointing his finger at him. You are definitely one of us. I said I'm not.
Vice Squad leader Tekli came up to Garen, who had his feet placed on the desk. His fractured limbs were reattached, but his face was covered with a large bandage, showing that his shattered cheekbone hadn't recovered yet.
Thud. Tekli knelt in front of Garen and smashed his head on the ground. I beg your pardon.
He didn't raise his head despite his broken cheekbone touching the ground.
I was careless. Please forgive me, since it's never going to happen ever again. Do you know what I hate to hear the most?
Garen smiled coldly and raised himself.
It's carelessness. You hear? Ah.
All the idiots keep blabbering that I lost because I was careless. I would have won if I wasn't careless, because I was careless.
Do you realize that's all because of their lack of ability?
His smile deepened, and the swords decorating the squad leader's room created a deadly resonance.
Huff. Tekli's face turned pale as he stiffened.
If you have an overwhelming ability, you can kill your opponent even if you were careless or whatever shit they did.
You were weak, that's all. I am sorry.
We are supposed to increase our reputation right now, yet shame isn't enough to describe the humiliation you brought to us.
You'd better tell me the reason I shouldn't behead you right now. Now.
Garen drew one of the swords from the wall, pointing it at Tekli's neck as if he really were going to kill him.
I'll go all out this time from the beginning.
Raon Zighart, I'll bury that arrogant guy with my own hands, so please give me one more chance. Although blood was spurting from his cheek and forehead, he didn't stop slamming his head on the marble floor. That sounds like bullshit coming from the guy who fainted from a single punch.
It's exactly because it was a punch. I'm never going to lose to him in swordsmanship.
It was true that he had an ominous feeling from the monster called Raon, but it was because they were in a fistfight.
Tekli was confident he could return the humiliation if they fought with swords.
Garen slowly lowered his sword, which he was about to swing.
I'll cut him into pieces with the technique you've bestowed on me. Please, give me one last chance. Well, fine.
Since I did put lots of effort into you, it would be a waste to discard you right now.
Thank you. However, Garen's eyes glowed like a demon as he glared at Tekli. If you lose again, then you are going to be the one cut into pieces.
Rimmer received Glenn's summons and visited the audience chamber of the Lord's Manor, which he hadn't visited in a long time. It looks like your life is nice and comfortable, since you became all plump.
Glenn frowned upon seeing Rimmer's chubby cheeks.
Why would you say that? You almost look like you are preying on a poor rabbit.
Rimmer's chin trembled as he pretended that he was scared. What have you even been doing to gain weight like that? Are you idling without even training the children anymore? It's because there's nothing for me to do. You have nothing to do?
Yes.
Actually, Raon.
He told Glenn everything that happened during the past month.
That's why my boys are getting beaten up every day. Are they not resisting? Glenn asked, tilting his head slightly. Of course they are.
Some of them didn't show up, ran away, hid their training swords, and they even completely messed up the entire training ground last week.
And how did Raon react?
He shattered all of their plans. He made them do the training grounds maintenance by bringing the soil right away. He used Dorian's pouch to resolve the issue with the training sword, and I don't even know what he did with the guys that were faking sickness, but I saw them return in a completely terrified state.
Rimmer giggled, calling Raon a really amazing fellow.
The children must have gotten stronger, then.
Yes.
Since they kept training in order to survive every day, their growth is so noticeable.
It's like a firefly becoming a beam of moonlight. To that extent?
They are pretty much different people from before, since they also became adept with the martial arts that you've rewarded them with.
Though, they haven't really noticed that, since they keep getting beaten up. I want to see them in action after hearing that from you.
Glenn nodded, saying that he was going to watch them when the duel happened.
His stiff mouth became relaxed.
The more I watch Raon, the more I realize how gifted he is.
Rimmer continued with a smile.
I used to think he was a genius that specialized in getting stronger himself, but that wasn't the case. He is also extremely talented at making others stronger.
Just as I thought, my dear student must have the qualities of a king.
He was my grandson before becoming your student.
He was my student first, though? What kind of nonsense is that?
Wrinkles appeared on the faces of the two people that were smiling while talking about Raon's greatness until a moment ago.
You can't say that when you usually don't even treat him as your grandson. You are only allowed to say that after you stop being embarrassed in front of Raon and tell him, my lovely grandson, let this grandpa hug you, and only after the Rimmer quickly started shaking his head after noticing the black cloud expanding above his head. I correct myself. He is your grandson.
Of course he is.
He could really die if he got hit once again.
He needed to avoid it at all costs.
Who?
The cloud disappeared the moment Rimmer apologized, even though it used to look like lightning would strike from it at any moment.
So, there's no problem. No, there's one problem. Even though it was a problem, it was really easy for Rimmer to say it. What can that possibly be? It's obviously the swordsman.
Their stress has been accumulating for over a month, and it's pretty much reached the maximum right now. It's likely that they are soon going to say, screw it, kill me if you want. Since the light wind kept training overnight and got beaten up during the day, their minds had almost reached their limits. It wasn't going to take long until they completely lost it.
And how is Raon preparing against it?
He isn't doing anything, though there's no way he isn't aware of the problem. In fact, he's increasing the training intensity instead.
Rimmer narrowed his eyes. It's as if he is asking them to rebel. Before sunrise.
The light wind swordsmen, who used to be filled with vitality, were now wobbling like zombies with unfocused eyes. Their stamina and willpower had both reached their limits.
I'm dying. MHM. Damn it.
Biden, Runan, and Martha were the same, even though they had the strongest willpower among them. They held out a bit longer than the others, but they wobbled the same way soon enough.
Sir Bayan.
Crine came up to Bayan and collapsed.
We are really going to die at this rate. So what? Let's go on strike. Strike? Yes, let's just lie down and ignore the vice squad leader's orders.
He raised his voice slightly so that everyone could hear him. The swordsmen that were interested in his plan slowly turned their heads.
Wouldn't he beat us up even more? Beat us even more? We are getting beaten up every day, and every moment. How can we possibly get beaten up even more? Moreover, we aren't doing this in order to rest, but in order to survive. Crine raised his finger and pointed at the swordsman. Look at them. Do they really look like teenagers who are supposed to be energetic? They are all dying because they lost all their energy. Let's ask him to give us a few days rest so that we can survive.
We are seriously going to either die or be severely wounded at this rate.
Bonin bit his lips. Crine didn't really sound trustworthy because of the previous incident, but what he said was true.
Since even himself, Runan, and Martha had reached their limits, the other swordsmen must have been struggling even more.
They could really end up with an injury that couldn't be healed at that rate.
The vice squad leader is strong, but I'm sure that he's still a novice when it comes down to training others. Look at how he keeps giving us the stick, when he should also be giving us a carrot after the stick.
That's true.
Just as Krine said, Raon kept giving them the stick for 2 months straight. It was enough time for even excellent horses to die. If everyone just lies down and protests, says that they are out of stamina and can't move anymore, even the vice squad leader is going to have no choice but to surrender.
Yes. Let's try that. I also agree. I really can't continue anymore.
I don't want to listen to Krine, but he is right this time. Even the vice squad leader won't be able to do anything about it if we all refuse to listen.
The swordsmen gathered around Bayan and Krine.
And Runan, Martha, and Dorian were among them. Even those 3 people would do anything for some rest because they couldn't sleep for the past 2 months. Then we've decided on lying down once Raon arrives, and we aren't going to move.
Traitors will be executed. Yes. MHM. Got it.
The 33 members of Lightwind, except for Raon and Rimmer, became united for the first time.
Soon enough, when it was time for the morning training, Raon entered while carrying a large bag on his back.
He frowned upon seeing the swordsman lying down on the training ground.
What are you doing right now? I really can't continue anymore. I can't move a single finger. I've reached my limits. I'm dying.
The swordsman stayed on the ground, complaining they couldn't get up.
I really want to keep training hard, but I'm completely out of energy and stamina. I'm just out of strength. Bayan continued, pointing at his half-focused eye with his finger.
Please give us some rest, or you can kill us if you don't want to.
Every swordsman lying in the training ground followed his example and spread their limbs into a big X shape. Does that mean that you can keep training as long as you have the stamina and energy?
Of course. That's why we need at least 3 days of rest.
We will never accept less than 3 days.
It has to be at least 3 days.
That's right. The swordsmen, including Ban, protested that they needed some rest.
They were simply out of stamina and strength, despite their willingness to train.
Stamina, I see.
That's perfect. Raon put down the bag he was carrying and opened it, and over 30 wooden boxes came out from it.
Because the second reward we requested at the Porvan City, the elixirs of blessings, have arrived.
He smiled, showing them a wooden box containing an elixir of blessings. Although it was a cheerful and refreshing smile, it felt as terrifying as a devil's smile for them.
Elixir? Why did that arrive at this time? How did this happen? The swordsmen couldn't rejoice nor cry at the sight of the wooden boxes.
That was because, while they were happy about getting an elixir, they realized the elixir would heal their stamina and energy and they would have to get beaten up once again.
Since your stamina and energy will return once you take the elixir, you should be able to keep training, right? Raon chuckled, watching the trainees making strange expressions with trembling hands. I already know what you are thinking.
Of course, the elixir didn't just happen to arrive at the right time. It had arrived at the same time as the soft soil, but he kept that hidden from everyone because he had predicted that such an incident would happen.
Coo! Damn it! Damn it! Bayan screamed before standing up and taking an elixir.
He blamed the gods for sending the elixir at that exact moment, when any time earlier or later would have been fine.
They mentioned that Raon didn't give them any carrots, but he was damn well giving them carrots now.
And they were poison carrots.
Sniff. It's all over. I have to get beaten up again. I can't run away. I can't see any way of running away. God is dead.
The swordsmen bit their lips, elixir boxes in their hands. They were happy about getting elixirs, but the fact that they had to get beaten up again made tears well up in their eyes.
It can't be helped. Let's take the elixir for now, and gather here late. Wait. As Bayan was telling them to return after taking the elixir, Raon raised his hand. You shouldn't take that right now. What? What are you talking about? You realize the elixir of blessing is more efficient if you take it after exhausting your stamina and aura, right? Let's spar with me for now and take it tonight after it's over.
Raon tapped the floor to urge them to come at him with a smile.
I'm gonna need to use some strength today in order to maximize the elixir's efficiency.
His training sword started spinning violently like a windmill.
The wind pressure emerging from the blade made people's teeth clatter. Clatter. What are you doing? Come at me already. Ah! Bayan could ascertain it as he saw Raon gently bobbing his hand at him. That bastard is a devil. He's not just any devil. He must be the Demon King.
3 months, with many complaints and problems, passed.
The morning of the duel between Light Wind and Golden Crest arrived.
The great training ground, where the duel was supposed to take place, was already completely packed with people.
I wonder who's going to win today. It's completely obvious that the Golden Crest will be the winner.
Although the Light Wind are rising stars, you can already tell from the names of the members that they are on different levels. No one even knows what missions the Golden Crest have done.
We are living in the Light Wind's era right now. But they will compete with their skills today, not with their reputations.
The Golden Crest is clearly at an advantage because they are stronger overall. Since there are duels between 35 people, I'm guessing that the Golden Crest is going to win at around a 30-5 score. But the Light Wind has Raon Zieghart, who has defeated an apostle.
There's only one Raon. Even if he wins his match, it's not really going to change the outcome.
Although the people in the spectator seats didn't really know each other, they kept chattering about the outcome, filled with anticipation for the upcoming match. Most of them expected the Golden Crest to win, even though they did acknowledge Light Wind's potential. While everyone was anticipating the duels, the great training ground's main door opened up and the Golden Crest entered. Spreading around their sharp pressures, they went towards the arena at the center of the training ground.
Can't you feel that pressure? Do you seriously think they are going to lose to the Light Wind members, who are still in their teens?
I'm sure they would have gained more fame than the Light Wind if it weren't for the activity suspension.
I know, right? Look at those eyes. They look like hungry beasts.
Feeling their powerful pressure from the Golden Crest confirmed their estimations.
Rumble.
Soon after Golden Crest made their appearance, the main door opened for the second time, and the Light Wind entered. They didn't have any of the confidence or spirit that the Golden Crest had shown. In fact, the way they silently walked towards the arena made people worry for them instead.
What's wrong with them?
They looked too depressed. Maybe they became afraid after feeling the Golden Crest's pressure. I guess that would be the case, since they must have realized they are a few levels stronger than them.
It's over for me.
I bet my entire fortune on Light Wind because I trusted Raon.
It looks like the match is not going to be fun at all.
People blabbered that the duel was going to end in a one-sided victory after witnessing the Light Wind's low spirit.
Raon smiled while looking around the training ground, as if he was enjoying their reactions. They are right. This match isn't going to be fun.
Since it would end in a one-sided victory for them.
Chapter 197. Since it will begin soon, you should warm yourselves up.
When Raon ordered the swordsman to warm up, a tall and slender swordsman walked towards him from the other side of the arena.
Raon Zieghart.
He looked similar to Raon, who he had crushed last time, but the energy wave emanating from him was on a completely different level. His entire body was surrounded with powerful energy, characteristic of those who surpassed the wall.
Are you Raon?
Raon approached Raon, stepping close enough that the sound of his breathing could be heard, and laughed coldly. He raised his chin while emanating a tremendous energy wave, as if he were trying to crush him.
Yes. Raon nonchalantly nodded under his pressure. Raon furrowed his brow. He apparently didn't expect Raon to take his pressure so easily.
I heard you beat my vice squad leader with a single punch, and you do look like you are capable enough.
It was because he wasn't that strong. He wasn't that strong? Techly? Yes. That is an excessive amount of arrogance you've got, just because you became a little famous. It's not arrogance. I'm just telling the truth. Raon wasn't taunting nor laughing at him. It really was his honest opinion.
I didn't appoint Techly as the vice squad leader for his fist, but because of his sword.
I assure you that he will be in a different dimension once he wields a sword. In that case, do you want to make a bet with me? A bet?
If I defeat your vice squad leader in a single strike once again, please be my next opponent, squad leader.
Raon continued, while watching Techly grind his teeth.
After all, I won't have enough fun if the fight ends with a single strike.
You son of a bitch. Techly, who was listening to them, came over while grinding his teeth. I wasn't using my sword back, th.
The vice squad leader dares to interrupt, swearing, when I'm talking with the squad leader.
I guess the Golden Crest's hierarchy is a mess. Raon sneered. Please excuse me. Techley returned to his position once Garen gave him a cold look.
His fist had turned red from clenching so hard, showing how angry he was.
Raon Zighart. That's an excessive amount of arrogance over such a small amount of fame. I suppose.
It might be too much for the Golden Crest squad leader, who has no fame at all.
You bastard. So, why aren't you giving me your answer about the bet I suggested earlier? Do you not trust your subordinate? Ha!
I heard about your eloquence, but they were right about it.
You are really good at taunting others. Garen took a deep breath as a scary smile appeared on his face.
I guess there's no way he would yield to a provocation like this.
Raon snickered. He was apparently better than Radin in that regard.
As Raon decided to use another method, Garen took a step forward.
Fine.
Since I should live up to my words, I'll play along with your taunt.
However, you will have to accept 5 years of activity suspension if you lose. Are you sure that's enough? Raon tapped his scabbard while looking at Garen.
If I can't neutralize Techley in a single strike, I'll never wield a sword ever again.
You bastard, do you really have a death wish? Garen's pressure was filled with an intense killing intent. He apparently couldn't endure the second provocation. Rumble. Without losing his smile, Raon brushed past Garen's powerful energy wave like a flowing river. I'm not a very mature person. Do you want me to end you right here and now? That doesn't sound so bad. Come at me.
As two people's pressures were about to soar towards the sky, creating sparks between them, a majestic resonance occurred from the training ground's entrance.
Rumble. Zieghart's true heaven, the head of house. Glenn Zighart makes his entrance.
Everyone inside the training ground knelt upon hearing the gatekeepers shouting their heads off.
Greeting my lord. While bowing his head, Raon examined Glenn, who was entering through the wide-open entrance. He's become even larger than before. The Glenn looked even larger and more majestic than 3 months previously.
His prowess truly seemed to be endless, since he looked different each time Raon got stronger. Neither Glenn nor the Heavenly Blade Squad leader paid anyone any attention. He simply went to sit on the throne on the platform, looking down at the light wind in Golden Crest.
TSK, that should have been the King of Essence's place.
Wrath licked his lips, glaring at Glenn.
My wrist is the best place for you.
The King of Essence is the monarch of Devildom.
I can't live in a bracelet like this forever. Just live there. I'll let you taste every food on the continent. Ha! Ha! Shut up.
Apparently, Wrath had to consider the option, since his response was significantly delayed. It was pretty funny, since Raon could confirm that gluttony was the reason for his actions, not Wrath.
Where's the Light Wind Squad leader? He is. I'm here.
As Raon was about to respond, Rimmer's voice came from behind him. He was holding a piece of paper in his hand, and it was obvious at a glance that it was a gambling slip.
Ha, you can begin. Glenn gave Rimmer a killing glare before waving his hand. The swordsmen raised themselves upon hearing his low voice. We are going to start the group duel between Light Wind and Golden Crest. The first participants shall come to the arena. As soon as the host finished talking, a long-armed swordsman from the Golden Crest side entered the arena. Who is our first? I don't know, we haven't decided yet. Squad leader? I don't know either.
The swordsman looked at Rimmer, but he simply shrugged his shoulders, as if he didn't have anything to do with it.
It's obvious who's the first. Raon came up to them and pointed at the green hair at the end of the line. Me?
Dorian, who was anxiously rubbing his belly pocket, freaked out and stepped back. Since this incident started with you, you should signal the start of the spars as well.
Raon grabbed Dorian's shoulder with a grin.
Go, and release the anger that has accumulated for the last 3 months. Dorian bit his lips upon seeing the Golden Crest swordsman in front of him.
Anger?
He was indeed angry, but it wasn't directed at the Golden Crest in front of him. He was angry at Raon instead. Since he was beaten up by Raon so much that he even forgot that Golden Crest beat him up, he couldn't even remember why he was fighting them.
He looked strong.
He didn't know his name, but his energy wave and appearance were already telling him he was an outstanding swordsman. He couldn't understand why Raon sent him first, despite being capable of accurately assessing people's fighting potential.
I can't lose this fight.
The spearhead was the most important one when it came to a group battle. The spearhead needed to do a good job for the rest to continue smoothly, yet Dorian wasn't confident in winning at all. The participants shall step forward.
Heeding the host's call, Dorian walked ahead while sighing deeply. State your names. I'm Dorian. I'm Belkill. Arg. Dorian's mouth shrunk into a round shape. Even his name is scary.
It wasn't just his face that looked strong.
Even his name sounded strong. He got the urge to immediately run away from the arena. Yet, I'm not even sure if I got any stronger at all.
He suffered so much that he could die for the 3 last months, but he couldn't exactly say that he got stronger. Since Raon's sword kept precisely targeting his weakness no matter how much martial arts he learned and pondered how to defend and counterattack against him, there was no way he could gain any confidence at all.
Start the spar. Although he wasn't mentally ready yet, the spar had already started.
As soon as the host went down the arena, Belkill charged at him. His sword twisted into a curve like a cumulus cloud, then fell down upon him. His swordsmanship was both flashy and confusing at the same time.
Ha!
Dorian freaked out and started to step back, but his eyes widened.
What's going on?
He could clearly see the flow of Belkill's variable sword. Where his sword was targeting and how it was moving, he could see all of it.
Is he making fun of me?
Dorian judged that Belkill was playing with him and quickly used his footwork, but Belkill's sword fell down exactly where he had expected without the slightest error.
You have some sharp eyes. Belkill jeered and dashed once again. But it will be different this time.
He stabbed along with a shout of concentration.
The sword's extremity instantly split into 3, targeting Dorian's chest, wrist, and head, respectively. I can see everything again.
Although he had never seen that swordsmanship before, he could read the flow and direction entirely. He dodged once again just in case, but the sword's trajectory didn't diverge from his expectation at all once again.
You mean rat?
Belkill's swordsmanship became faster and more diverse, but it didn't make much difference. Dorian could see all his movements and openings.
Hap!
Dorian used the supply forest footwork that he had recently learned to dodge Belkill's sword, and smacked his side, which was wide open.
Smack! Along with the sound of a clean hit, Belkill screamed as he was knocked down in the arena. Qua!
Since his vital point was hit, he groaned while grabbing his ribs before fainting. That hurts. Because Dorian got hit by Raon over and over, he knew what kind of pain and effect each vital point had.
Getting hit on that location made you unable to breathe until you fainted. So, what's happening right now? Why did I win just now?
Dorian swallowed nervously while looking at Raon instead of Belkill, who he just defeated.
What the hell are you? What have you done to me? Raon chuckled, looking at Dorian's puzzled expression. You must be confused.
It wasn't strange that he was shocked, since he managed to defeat a Golden Crest swordsman that was supposed to be far stronger than him in a single strike despite not believing that he had gotten stronger at all. The Light Wind members must have thought that their skills hadn't increased at all, but in reality, they'd been getting stronger at a constant rate for the past 3 months. Golden Crest was nothing for them, since they managed to endure those hellish times.
What is this? Garen's eyes widened, as he didn't expect that result either.
He was even more surprised, because Belkill, who he sent out as the first participant, was right under the team leaders in terms of strength.
First match is the Light Wind's victory.
The host, who was dumbfounded, managed to snap out of it and raise his hand to the Light Wind side.
Isn't this a conspiracy? How could he lose so easily? Whoa! Light Wind! Light Wind!
There were 2 completely different reactions from the spectators, depending on the side they were rooting for. Those who expected Golden Crest to win had to clutch their heads, and those who were supporting the Light Wind kept cheering their heads off.
He was just lucky. Ajin, you are next.
Garen forced himself to look relaxed, sending out his second team leader. It looked like he was determined to win the second match no matter what.
Bayan, it's your turn.
You can definitely win, so just entrust your body to your sword.
Understood. Bayan reluctantly nodded and entered the arena. I'm Ajahn Patir. I'm Bayan Zighart. Begin.
Once they greeted each other before the duel and took a step back, the host announced the start of the battle. Whoosh! Ajahn immediately pressured Bayan's space with his variable sword, combined with his long arms, in order to turn the tide in his favor. Bayan dodged Ajahn sword at a paper-thin difference, while feeling that something was strange.
Try blocking this.
Ajahn spread his aura like flower petals to dominate the space, but Bayan easily blocked all his strikes with a single swing of his sword, as if he were chasing a fly away.
What? It's a bit strange, but it's my turn now, right? Bayan kicked the ground. He leaped into the unsettled Ajahn space to stab.
The windy aura ripped apart the variable sword's trajectory and smacked Ajahn's solar plexus.
Smack!
Since Bayan didn't control his strength as he hit him with the flat of his sword, Ajahn collapsed without even letting out a scream.
Ah! What's happening? A single strike again? But Ajahn is a team leader. Oh my god. One-time occurrence could be considered as a coincidence, but the second time couldn't.
The spectators dropped their jaws from witnessing the light wind's prowess, which defeated even a team leader in a single strike.
Bayan ran up to Raon as soon as he left the arena. What the hell did you do? What do you mean? Why can I see all of his attacks?
He told him he could see all the variations and flows from Ajahn swordsmanship with a trembling chin.
Me, too.
I was also able to see everything about my opponent's sword. Dorian's face was still red, since he still couldn't accept reality. I told you in the beginning that I'd make you win if you follow my systematic training.
Are you telling me that training that was nothing but beating us up was really effective? As systematic? That's not the definition of systematic I know. It wasn't just Bayan and Dorian.
The other swordsmen also stared at Raon in half-daze, as if they were looking at a monster.
Stop being surprised and prepare for the next match already.
Because the Light Wind members were spacing out, Raon tapped their shoulders and pointed at the arena. We still have 33 more wins to get, so go fetch them.
Without missing a single one. Smack!
Along with the sound of a clean hit similar to a drumming sound, the third team leader of Golden Crest was thrashed on the ground. Runan, who was standing in the arena and staring blankly at her opponent for a while with vacant eyes, as if she had just woken up. She then returned to the Light Wind side. That made it 33 victories and 0 defeats. It was an overwhelming victory for the Light Wind. The match would have already been over if it were an ordinary match, and the only reason it wasn't was because it was a duel.
What's going on? Garen's lips trembled upon seeing the scoreboard. 33:0.
He never imagined that his team would have 0 in that score.
What the hell is this? You guys must have conspired. This can't be happening otherwise.
He screamed, grabbing the host and the referee by their collars.
We didn't. We only went according to the results. Shut up. Can you say that again after seeing what happened? What are your eyes for? Gasp.
As Garen looked like he was about to kill the referee and the host, an enormous energy wave burst from the platform.
Rumble.
The one that spread the pressure that could oppress the entire training ground, or even the entirety of Zighart, was Glenn Zighart.
Naturally. Rumble.
Glenn's eyes had been closed as if he were bored, but now he was looking down on Garen with a frown.
What are you doing right now? Grandfather. This doesn't make any sense. This isn't an informal meeting.
You should address me correctly. His gaze became even colder, ignoring Garen's pleas. And no one cheated in today's matches. What you should blame isn't the host's eyes but your own abilities.
Glenn waved his hand at the host, signaling him to continue. Ah, yes. And next swordsman, enter the arena.
The host pulled himself together, then called for the next participants.
Squad leader. Tekli, who was the last remaining member, went to Garen.
We have to win, at least. If the two of us win against Raon and Rimmer, the Golden Crest can recover.
Garen nodded.
The other members could simply be replaced. As long as he and Tekli won, they could create a new Golden Crest to reach even higher peaks. It was funny that Garen pinned his hopes on Tekli, despite having been looking down on him, laughing at him, and even threatening him.
Please believe in me. Tekli entered the arena, wielding his long sword. I didn't think I would fight you again. Raon smiled at Tekli.
He had a higher willpower than Raon had expected, since he thought he would withdraw in fear.
You arrogant bastard! How dare you make a bet on the match against me? And you even bet on defeating me on a single strike. Tekli's eyes glowed like a demon's.
I admit I couldn't do anything when I lost to you last time, but it would have been different if I was using a sword.
Just as he said, Judiel's document also described Tekli as an excellent swordsman with his long sword. I'll make you unable to wield your sword ever again. I wonder. That might be the case.
Raon smiled casually and drew Heavenly Drive.
Begin.
Tekli rushed forward as soon as the host left. He nimbly controlled his long sword as if it were a dagger, targeting Raon's head, neck, and wrist at the same time.
Kring!
It was clearly a flashy swordsmanship with solid basics, an advanced martial art where strength, speed, and variety were in harmony.
However, I can see everything.
Since Raon split the white fragrance sword and the techniques from the Light Wind members into small pieces to make his own technique for the past 3 months, Tekli's sword looked as simple as a child's play for him. Speed, flow, breathing, trajectory. Everything was in the grasp of his hand. It became clear to him. The Light Wind members weren't the only ones that became stronger. Since he'd been beating them up every day, finding their weaknesses to help them progress further, his prowess had also increased beyond recognition.
Hop!
Teki approached with footwork and swung his long sword. The aura from his long blade twisted like vines, trying to coil around Raon's body.
You are full of openings.
It certainly had enough splendid variety and powerful strength to be called Tekli's special technique, but it was meaningless to Raon, as he could feel all his flow and breathing.
Kring!
Raon raised Heavenly Drive and stabbed the opening made from Tekli's swordsmanship.
Slum!
The blade, imbued with the 10,000 Flames cultivation's aura, created a huge explosion of flame and slammed Tekli into the ground.
Ku! Tekli couldn't raise his trembling neck, fainting immediately. A single strike. Just as he had declared, Raon defeated Tekli with a single swing. What is this? Garen's eyes widened as his lips trembled.
He looked flabbergasted, since he never imagined that would happen.
I've won our small bet. You? Come up now.
Raon's red eyes were blazing like raging fires.
His expression couldn't be any more arrogant as he looked down on Garen. Let's fight, without caring about our ranks.
It was time to create a new legend.
Chapter 198.
Cheryl, the Heavenly Blade Division leader, groaned a little from where she stood next to Glenn.
I can't believe what I'm watching right now.
Her eyes were shaking as she watched the arena. They won all their matches.
How is this even possible?
The score so far was 30 wins to 0 losses, favoring the Light Wind. Light Wind had actually managed to grasp victories in every single one of the 30 matches. And all of those victories were one-sided. The Light Wind overwhelmed the Golden Crest, as if their skills were on another level. Many of the matches ended in a single strike, and many of the Light Wind members were venting their anger on the Golden Crest by beating them up. I'm sure they are on a similar level, though. The Light Wind managed to achieve a perfect victory, as if they knew everything about the Golden Crest's martial arts in and out. The way they fended off their opponents' attacks and attacked openings in return came from true combat experience. She couldn't understand how they had suddenly become so competent in a mere 3 months. I heard they did nothing but spar. Glenn moved the hand supporting his chin, then continued.
They didn't rest a single day during the last 3 months, sparring nonstop and practicing targeting vital points and openings. Sparring and practicing striking vital points and openings.
Because he targeted different weaknesses and openings whenever they became used to it, the Light Wind children were beaten up every day and learned martial arts every night in order to survive.
Ha!
Cheryl's chin trembled slightly.
Isn't that pretty much a living hell? Poking at a new weakness whenever they managed to defend one, and attacking another one if they defended again, was not a method an ordinary person would think of. Yes. Ordinary people couldn't train them that way, nor could they receive such training. However, Raon and the Light Wind managed to do it, and we are witnessing the result right now. Glenn pointed at the 31st match, which was just beginning.
Wah!
Die! The long-haired swordsman named Krine was charging at the Golden Crest Swordsman. We've been living in hell for the last 3 months because of you guys. He single-handedly fended off the wave of aura blade created by the Golden Crest Swordsman, then struck him like a madman. I really thought I was going to die because of that demon who kept shattering my plans over. And over. And over again. I didn't do anything. I don't care. Just die.
Krine screamed as he slashed, and his blade cut into the Golden Crest Swordsman's weakness perfectly.
Kua! How dare you faint? Wake up! Come at me. Feel the pain of getting your vital points beaten all day long.
The Golden Crest Swordsman had fainted in a single hit, his eyes rolled back, while Krine kept attacking the fainted man. He still wanted to vent more anger on him.
You guys also need to suffer from the demon. I can't be the only one. Stop. It's already over.
The host and the referee had to hold Krine by his arms and legs to stop him.
And it wasn't the first time that it happened.
The Light Wind Swordsmen were spacing out in the beginning, since their confidence was at rock bottom, but once they realized they had gotten stronger.
1 out of 3 people started rampaging to vent their anger, just like Krine.
Cheryl narrowed her eyes, seeing the next participant enter the arena.
Martha Zighart.
Since she had a violent personality to begin with, she couldn't even begin to guess what she was going to do.
Begin.
As soon as the host signaled the start of the match, Martha kicked the ground.
Shit.
She kept swearing as if she couldn't speak human language anymore as she dashed at the Golden Crest team leader.
Slum. Her linguistic ability wasn't the only inhuman part about her.
She completely shattered the Golden Crest team leader's strike with her enormous strength.
Rumble.
Martha stepped on the exploding stones of the arena to advance, attacking 12 of the Golden Crest team leader's vital points at the same time.
Qua.
The way the Golden Crest team leader was knocked into the air like a leaf fluttering in the wind, looking like an acrobat. Until he fell headfirst into the ground.
Shit. Marshall only said swear words until the end before leaving the arena. She really looked like a beast.
Fortunately, Runan, who was the next person, silently made her opponent team leader faint. However, she also hit the face and the most painful vital points.
She was apparently pretty angry as well.
And Raon, who was the 34th participant, easily dodged the Golden Crest Vice Squad leader's attacks, making him faint in a single strike.
From members to the Vice Squad leader, everyone won single-handedly overwhelmed their opponents. It was the first time a group duel had ended that way. My lord.
Glenn was trying to stop his corners of lips from rising. He looked pleased by the fact that Raon managed to create such a situation. It's true that the Light Wind children became stronger, but... Cheryl swallowed nervously while looking at the Light Wind members, who were roaring like beasts.
Is that really the right direction for them? They almost look like beasts that were raised by a demon. Cough. Glenn cleared his throat and looked away without responding. Rumble. A breathtakingly ominous energy was rising from Garen's shoulders. Do you really want to die?
His teeth could be seen as he smiled.
The energy wave emanating from him was on a different dimension from before. Are you really asking me to decapitate you right now? We will see whose head will fall.
Raon smiled coldly as he swirled Heavenly Drive.
How many people do you think expected the Light Wind to win when this duel first started? Are you trying to tell me that the same goes for this duel, and that either of us could be the winner? No, I'll be the winner. Ha! Did you lose all your respect just because I've been going easy on you? There's no reason for me to respect someone that picked a fight with me.
Raon shook his hand, looking straight at Garen.
Moreover, you won't be a squad leader for long. there's no reason for me to respect you. What? You must have forgotten that I didn't decide on the reward for when I won the bet. Raon pointed his finger at the score behind the host. 34:0. The result is already decided. I'm going to disband the Golden Crest after the spar against you. Disband the Golden Crest? Garen's hands were shaking. He apparently never imagined his squad could be disbanded. Do you believe it can be disbanded so easily? The head of house is watching, and our notary is the Heavenly Blade leader. Of course it's possible. Ah. You can't stop it from happening unless the true Martial Palace Master makes his move. And it doesn't look like he has any intention of doing so. Likely because he was punished during Radon's incident, the true Martial Palace Master was still, his arms crossed. You bastard. Garen's energy became clear enough to be visible to the bare eyes. Breathtaking pressure was crushing his body. Whir! Raon resonated the rings of fire to casually take on Garen's energy wave. This is your last chance. Golden Crest will be disbanded unless you manage to kill me here. You must be insane to provoke me in this situation. I couldn't do this if I wasn't insane. He continued while pointing at the Light Wind members. They have gone crazy because of you guys for the past 3 months. It's time to make you pay for the last time. That's not true, though? We went crazy because of you. Demon. Raon ignored the strange things they were saying behind him. Anyway, use your full power from the beginning, so you can't complain about having been careless later. Raon bobbed his fingers on his hand, grabbing Heavenly Drive. You don't need to worry about that, since carelessness is the word that I hate the most. Garen stood in front of him while grinding his teeth. W8. This match is the duel between the squad leaders. The host interfered between the powerful energy waves and shook his head. He was an extremely responsible person. Ah, Raon is taking my place because I'm injured. Rimmer smiled, eating strawberries on the side. What the? The host's eyes widened. He clearly found it ridiculous that a perfectly healthy person could say that with a straight face. Since they have both agreed, ignore that idiot and continue the match. Glenn nodded, telling him it was fine. Fine. Ah, all right. The host lowered his hand, wiping off the cold sweat from his forehead. Then, please get ready. I'm ready. Start it already. Raon and Garen nodded at once. Begin the final match. The moment the referee raised his hand, a blue flame burst from Garen's blade. The raging flame of magnificent energy was the symbol of a master, astral energy. Whoosh! As if he were proving what he said about not being careless, Garen closed the distance in an instant, thrusting his astral energy-covered sword. Crackle! Although Raon was facing astral energy that held the intent to kill, his eyes didn't waver. Now! The moment astral energy was about to reach his Adam's apple, Raon extended his left foot. The first step, extending like a ray of light, was the first step of the Supreme Harmony steps. It waned like moonlight and deflected the astral energy. Thud! And it was followed by the second step. The steps of extreme quickness dashed like a gust of wind to reach the space behind Garen. Kring! Raon's heavenly drive was at Garen's neck, and Garen could only tremble, unable to react while looking at the other side. How? It's already over. I was careless. I didn't show my true ability. I thought you said carelessness was your most hated word. Coup. Garen grit his teeth, unable to refute that, since it was exactly what he'd said before the match began. You pretend to be different from your younger brother, but you are the same. Raon snickered, smacking Garen's face with the fist holding Heavenly Drive. Smack! Along with the sound of a bursting drum, Garen was sent flying and landed on his knees. Spit! Garen spat out 2 teeth while grasping his distorted cheeks. You are rather sturdy. Considering he only lost 2 teeth even though Raon went all out on that hit, becoming master must have had the effect on enhancing one's endurance. Why didn't you finish it? Because I gave your younger brother a chance in the past. It won't be fair if I didn't give you any. Ha, not delivering a finishing blow just now will be something you regret for the rest of your life. No, you won't be able to regret it, since you are going to die here.
Garen chewed his lips and brandished his blade. He threw away his impatience from before and lowered his posture. The nervousness in his eyes revealed that he was considering his opponent his equal now.
Phew! Raon slowly caught his breath. Yes, this is it.
His skin was shivering from Garen's murderous intent. He wanted to win against a master that was doing his best, since there was no point in winning against one that was careless or sloppy. The real fight was only getting started.
Your spirit pursues nothing but power. Wrath nodded. I knew demon was a more suitable thing to call you. I'll eat something delicious after the match. Silence.
Since Wrath kept saying stupid things, Raon made him shut up and brandished Heavenly Drive.
He needed to focus more than he ever had before. Whir! Raon used the 10,000 flames cultivation and the ring of fire to the maximum.
Crimson flame ignited along the blade of Heavenly Drive.
Although it was just aura threads, it was as clear as an astral blade. I have to destroy his technique.
Garen's swordsmanship was an advanced martial art, where a flashy and diversified variable sword and a heavy sword that swallowed the space were in harmony. It was necessary to break the variety and distort the heaviness in order to reach him.
Thud!
Garen disappeared from his sight with the violent sound of footsteps. He could feel an energy wave that could tear apart his flesh on the right.
Raon bent his upper body backwards. Whoosh!
The astral blade brushed past, right above his forehead, and the severed hairs melted.
Clang!
The surprise attack wasn't over. He parried the strike that was falling from the sky.
Wham!
Crimson sparks appeared from the clashes between swords and auras.
Raon frowned at the trembling in his wrist. He is at the same level as the seventh apostle. Garen's astral blade was at a similar level to the seventh apostle that he fought before.
However, he was even more dangerous than the seventh apostle, since he was doing his best. Although they only clashed once so far, his breathing was already affected.
However, I can hold out longer than before.
He would end up being injured internally if he kept clashing against him, but the situation was a lot better than the fight against the seventh apostle. Both his body and martial art had gotten better.
I told you that you would regret not finishing me off in the beginning.
Garen narrowed his eyes while brandishing his sword, which was imbued with astral energy.
This is the difference between an astral blade and aura thread. You can't win against me.
He blasted the floor with his explosively bloated thigh to charge at him.
Because I won't be careless anymore. Fine with me. Raon smiled coldly and used Supreme Harmony steps.
Garen's astral energy looked like it could tear through space, but Raon dodged it with a paper-thin difference and smacked the fangs of insanity against his face.
The whole point is defeating you in your current state.
He wanted clear evidence that he had defeated a master while being an expert.
That was the reason he was participating in the duel. You bastard! Garen pulled back his sword and brought it in front of his face. Clang!
Likely because his timing was a bit off, the shock was weaker despite colliding with astral energy.
Which means, if he could lead the fight at his pace, he wouldn't exactly lose to the astral energy. You bastard! Garen squeezed into his space in an instant to slash at him.
His sword looked like it had multiplied into 6 as it rained him with astral energy.
Rumble!
The intense pressure crushed his shoulders and his legs creaked. The sword pressure was trying to limit his movements. Sword of Halting Rain. It must have been the effect of the Sword of Halting Rain that he was told Garen could use.
Thud! Raon used the Supreme Harmony's first step.
He crossed the space and reached behind Garen. He spread the revolving sky of the 10,000 flames cultivation towards his heart.
Flash!
The moment the blades of fire revolving like a cogwheel were discharged, Garen's sword sparkled. A barrier of astral energy melted down the revolving sky. Despite his nasty personality, his martial arts were properly trained.
I admit you are as fast as a mean rat, but your sword doesn't work against me. And I'm here to break through that.
The part he had an advantage over Garen was footwork. He needed to utilize the Supreme Harmony steps as much as possible to make his sword reach him.
Thud! Raon used the Supreme Harmony's second step.
His vision narrowed for an instant, and he could see Garen's eyes once it expanded back.
What? To Garen's surprise, Raon thrusted the fangs of insanity towards his shoulder. Heavenly drive pierced through Garen's defenses, surrounded by a thick layer of energy as it cut through his shoulder. Ku! Garen groaned and frowned. It was just a superficial wound, but he stepped back in panic while pointing his sword forward. Raon's eyes sparkled. If Garen decided to withdraw instead of advance, it was his chance to continue his attacks. He exploded the fangs of insanity consecutively, aiming at Garen's side where an opening was created. Slam! Slum! Slum! Each time the swords clashed with each other, an explosive sound burst out. The straggling pieces of astral energy from the explosion tore apart Raon's flesh and uniform, but he didn't stop. Ack! Huff! Garen withdrew once again, and Raon advanced once again. Creak! Creak! Facing Raon's eyes, which were filled with madness as he refused to fall back while facing astral energy, Garen's eyes wavered like a boat in a violent ocean. How can a mere aura thread do this? Astral energy isn't invincible. Raon smiled faintly. Astral energy was certainly powerful, but it wasn't invincible. He used the star-connecting sword consecutively to deflect Garen's attacks, piercing him with the fangs of insanity. It's not like I'm not taking any damage, though. He was already feeling nauseous. Although his body and skills could already be called inhuman, it was still impossible to completely negate astral energy's power. Huff! He couldn't show his weakness on the outside. He bit his tongue as he kept pressing Garen back. Ku! Garen's wavering intensified. It looked like he couldn't believe he was being pushed back. You've never fought against someone stronger than you, have you? What? I can smell it. Raon's eyes sparkled in the same color as the 10,000 flames cultivation. The scent of a coward who has only fought those weaker than him. Shut up! Garen screamed and swung his sword. His astral energy spread around like rainwater to block Raon's every single escape route. The tremendous energy was crushing his body from all directions. Raon grit his teeth. Heavenly drive rotated elegantly to draw a majestic circle. 10,000 flames cultivation, 10 flames. Flame spirit. The flower buds appearing from the silver trajectory blossom to cover the arena with crimson flower petals. Whame! The clash between the flower petals of flame and the astral energy devouring the space created a huge firestorm. Creak! Raon grasped his messed up stomach and used the 10,000 flames cultivation to the maximum. The fiercely raging flame engulfed the astral energy and advanced. Although he was lacking in power, his spirit didn't lose. Whir! He turned his wrist while pushing Garen into a corner. The frost pawn's blade of extreme quickness scratched Garen's chest. The injury was light, but it couldn't be overlooked. Red blood dripped down from the severed skin. Ah! Garen grasped the flowing blood and ground his teeth. His eyes were glowing like a ghost. I'll tear you apart until there's no trace of you left. Garen stomped the ground, intensifying his aura to the point that it became visible to the naked eye. Garen's astral energy stormed at him between the pieces of the ground that were scattering from the explosion. Die! He charged at a tremendous speed, aiming to strike Raon. The curved blade of astral energy multiplied into 10 in an instant, and a powerful load was applied to Raon's limbs. The pressure didn't allow proper movement. It must have been the sort of halting rain's true power. I can't face him head-on. Raon distanced himself from Garen's space by using the Supreme Harmony's first step and second step one after the other. It was impossible for him to deflect the countless strikes aimed at him. He needed to dodge and look for an opportunity. You won't. However, Garen was also at master level as a warrior. He followed him with an extremely quick reaction and swung his sword. Whoosh! The wavering blade slashed past his chest. His uniform was cut apart, and blood spurted out. Swoosh! The astral blade soaring like lightning was aimed at his neck. Thud! Raon used his footwork to push the ground and stepped back. The moment Garen's sword hit the ground, Raon dashed ahead to strike with the fangs of insanity. Clang! 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 Raon ceaselessly rotated the ring of fire, canceling out Garen's astral energy with his sword technique, strength, and footwork. This is the only way to win. It was impossible to injure Garen through his all-out astral energy. The only way to achieve victory was by piercing into the barrier of astral energy and striking him with either Flame Dragon Art or Frostpond. That was why it was necessary to first analyze the Sword of Halting Rain's flow and breathing, although it was a swordsmanship of the highest grade. Whoosh! Raon dodged the barrage of attacks with a paper-thin difference by utilizing the Supreme Harmony steps to the maximum. Although a single mistake or a single error in judgment could result in his limbs being severed, he dashed towards him instead. Blood spurted from the astral energy brushing past his cheek, and his uniform was burned into pieces, but he kept running as if he didn't care. The only images reflected in his red eyes were the Sword of Halting Rain's trajectory and breathing. Right side. Garen's sword, falling on his right side, grazed his shoulder slightly. Underneath. The astral energy soaring from below, like raging fire, cut through his thigh. It's superficial, but I can see it. Maybe because the white fragrance sword, which could be called the Sword of Halting Rain's foundation, was engraved in his brain and heart alongside the countless martial arts of the Light Wind members, Raon's eyes were starting to get used to Garen's breathing and flow despite him trying his best to defeat him. Left side. A horizontal slash was aimed at the left side of his chest. There were 3 blades, but only one of them was real. Clang! Raon lowered his posture, holding Heavenly Drive vertically and pushing back the astral energy. Bottom left again. An even faster and stronger energy was trying to stab his left thigh. Thud! Raon moved his foot and advanced. The flame on Heavenly Drive rotated violently to push back Garen's barrier of astral energy. I'm getting used to it. With his eyes getting used to Garen's swordsmanship, he became capable of dodging his attacks at close quarters. It's throbbing. Countless martial arts were released, as if they were reacting to the throbbing of his heart. The techniques and principles that he'd seen, felt and destroyed so far, were acting of their own accord to thoroughly analyze Garen's sword. Whir! Whir! The blade thrusted at his head to change direction to his heart, the astral energy multiplying into 10 to stab him, the techniques trying to mutilate his body. He could dodge all of them without a single scratch. However, something is lacking. Even though he was dodging Garen's attack with the Supreme Harmony Step's miraculous movement, he still got the feeling that something was missing. He felt like his heart was telling him to extend his hand at the same time he was dodging. I shouldn't, but why? Even though he still didn't manage to grasp the opportunity to pierce through Garen's astral energy, the Ring of Fire was telling him to advance one step further. It was shouting at him to thrust his sword. Die! Garen's sword fell vertically. A deadly heavy sword with reduced variety and increased weight was falling upon him. Let's try it. Raon decided to trust the Ring of Fire and use the Supreme Harmony's 6th step. He used the star-connecting sword along with the smoothest step. Rumble! The stability coming from his legs and the flexibility from his wrist flowed into the white blade. Heavenly Drive perfectly deflected the astral energy radiating with a fierce light, landing a counterattack at Garen's waist like lightning. Slash! Garen withdrew while groaning, grasping his waist. Red blood was pouring out from his hand. Gulp! Raon swallowed nervously. Is this the Supreme Harmony steps? The Ring of Fire didn't lie to him. Deflecting by mixing the Supreme Harmony steps with his swordsmanship reduced the shock to an incomparable degree. Qua! Garen grit his teeth. He pointed his sword towards the sky, exploding all of his remaining energy. The astral blade that was reaching the sky multiplied into several dozens to cover the entire arena. This is the Great Heavy Rainfall. The ultimate technique of the Sword of Halting Rain. It was a cruel technique, meant to mutilate the opponent after limiting their movement by enclosing the entire space with astral energy. Rumble! A huge wall of astral energy was approaching. He couldn't see any way to escape. Throb! How can I defend? While he was wondering, his heart resonating with rings of fire, told him. It's time to advance. Raon trusted in the martial arts that he had been cultivating and fixed his grip on Heavenly Drive. Whir! In his extremely focused state, he could see the mana particles fluttering in the air. They were reflecting Glenn's image from that night 3 months ago. I've created the Supreme Harmony steps to match me.
You should learn my Supreme Harmony steps, then turn it into your own to complete it. Lighting struck his brain upon remembering that sentence, which he had only slid by in the past.
My own Supreme Harmony steps. I finally understand.
He wasn't telling him to create a new Supreme Harmony steps. He was telling him to maximize the swordsmanship's effect by using the Supreme Harmony steps that best harmonized with his technique.
Wham! Raon stomped the ground.
The Supreme Harmony's fifth step. With steps as sharp as a spearhead, he pulled back Heavenly Drive.
Rumble!
He exploded all his remaining 10,000 flames cultivation's energy in his energy center. The flame bursting on his silver blade was glowing like the sun.
10,000 flames cultivation, 10 flames. Flame Dragon Art.
The roar of the flame dragon pierced through the center of the blue tidal wave.
Chapter 199. Rumble.
The enormous wave of astral energy melted down and Garen's appearance was revealed from where he had been hiding behind it. He was coughing up blood, his chest caved in as if he had been hit by a hammer. It was a miracle that came from the harmony between the Supreme Harmony steps and the Flame Dragon Art.
However, Garen wasn't the only one who had suffered damage. Cough.
Raon was also coughing up blood while leaning forward.
It was a severe internal injury.
It would have been strange if he was fine after slashing through astral energy of that intensity.
Coo! Garen stepped back while grasping his chest.
His eyes were wavering violently, as if he were in an earthquake.
Where are you going? Raon swallowed the blood welling up in his throat and kicked the ground. While Garen withdrew, Raon advanced.
His head felt dizzy from his insides being completely messed up, but he endured and kept using the Supreme Harmony steps.
Qua! Get away! I'm telling you to get away!
Garen screamed, using the Sword of Halting Rain again and again. Although he looked like he was thrashing around, his sword still contained astral energy, and his trajectory was precise.
That's why. I can dodge it.
The resonating 6 rings had perfectly analyzed the principles of the Sword of Halting Rain.
Thud!
Raon bent his knees to dodge the strike, curving towards him like a rake before using the Supreme Harmony's second step. His vision narrowed down and he could see Garen's panicked expression. Raon surrounded his wrist with the principles of speed and thrust with the flame spirit. Whir! The crimson flower petals decorating the space were flowers that bloomed at the end of the spring, when summer was nigh. The rotation of radiantly fluttering pieces of flame was barely visible as they enclosed Garen's body.
Ack!
Garen tried to explode the astral energy that he had gathered, but it was already too late. The crimson flower petals were already right next to him.
Wait. There's no waiting during a fight.
Raon laughed, and the flame spirit's flower petals reached Garen at the same moment, exploding.
Qua!
Engulfed by the storm of raging fire, Garen screamed and fell to his knees.
Coo! Raon coughed up blood once again.
He clenched his fist, enduring the pain that was tearing apart his stomach.
How? Garen barely managed to muster enough aura to extinguish the 10,000 flames cultivation's fire and asked with trembling lips. How can you fight in that state?
Focus had disappeared from his eyes in his awe.
He apparently couldn't believe that Raon was still moving despite being even more heavily injured than himself. It's because you've never fought against someone stronger than you. Raon smiled, wiping away the blood that was flowing from his mouth. You kept trying to run away, didn't you?
Garen fiercely attacked when he was in an advantage, but he withdrew whenever it was even, or he couldn't understand the situation. The reason he lost was because of his fear. It was a problem that stemmed from the fact that he had never experienced a fight of life and death against a stronger opponent. You can reach a high level by training alone or winning against those weaker than you.
However, you can't become a strong person.
If you only want to fight winning matches, then you should stay in the true martial palace and hang around with your subordinates, and no one else.
Raon clenched his fist to smack Garen's chin. Smack! Garen couldn't even defend properly, his body rolling on the ground. Koha! Raon walked up to him while controlling the ring of fire. You didn't expect to be rolling on the ground right now, did you? That's why the world is interesting. Garen couldn't close his mouth because his jaw had been dislocated.
He stepped back once again, blood flowing from the empty space his front teeth used to fill.
Stop. I lows. Huff. Raon covered Garen's mouth with his scabbard. Just like your younger brother. You act exactly like him.
Coo. My guys had to suffer for 3 months because of you.
You have to take responsibility for it. He smacked Garen's chin in the opposite direction to stop him from talking. Smack. Garen was shoved to the ground at the edge of the arena.
But the vice squad leader is the one who beat us up, not him. We really got beaten up so hard that I thought I'd die. I don't even know at this point why he had to beat us up. I did get stronger, but I feel like it wasn't worth it.
Should he really be doing that?
Raon decided to ignore the questioning voices from the light wind.
Coo.
Garen couldn't speak because his mouth was full of blood, so he tried to extend his hand to the ground in order to lose by touching the ground outside the arena.
Where are you trying to go? Raon grabbed Garen by his ankle and threw him to the other side of the arena. Coo. We can't let this end here, since we are only getting started.
He smiled at Garen, who was coughing up blood.
Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you. Raon smiled coldly while raising his clenched fist. Nice.
If someone picks a fight with you, you gotta first win the fight, then thoroughly trample them so they can never challenge you ever again.
I'm finally starting to like you. Wrath nodded with a grin on his face. Do you want to try running for Demon King? Shut up.
The entire great training ground was covered in heavy silence after Raon started beating Garen up with his fist.
Slam.
Once Garen finally fainted and fell to the ground after getting beaten up like a sandbag, the spectators started to open their mouths one by one.
Ha! He won. Raon won. I can't believe Sir Garen lost so miserably. Am I dreaming right now?
Since the spectators had been expecting Raon's defeat and Garen's victory until just a moment ago, their jaws dropped upon facing the ridiculous outcome.
Has any expert managed to defeat a master in history? There's one over there.
It happened 3 months ago.
Which means, the story about him defeating the 7th apostle was true.
A 17-year-old expert who defeated 2 masters. Once can be a coincidence, but twice means it was his skills.
This is going to go down in Zeighart's history, rather, the continent's history. The spectators filling the great training ground couldn't take their eyes off Raon as they swallowed nervously.
I'm the winner, as I managed to witness this duel.
I'm glad I took a day off. I agree.
I lost so much money, but I don't regret it at all.
Me, too. I bet my entire salary for the month, but I'm just laughing right now. You are laughing because you are sad. That's a real light wind right there. An unforeseen occurrence was bound to excite the crowd.
The spectators sent a round of applause to Raon with a smile, despite having lost their money. They rejoiced at the appearance of an unprecedented genius in the house, which was a natural reaction from warriors that pursued strength.
Whoa! Raon! 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 Light wind! Light wind!
I'll be looking forward to your activities in the future. The large number of swordsmen in the great training ground cheered for Raon and the light wind.
However, there were people who were showing an opposite reaction. Tisk. That idiot. He should have ended him right there. How could he lose to such a shabby technique?
It's a disgrace to call him a master.
The members of the direct line and the collaterals following them couldn't accept the turnabout and ground their teeth.
Raon's imposing appearance was reflected in their angry eyes.
Crack.
The throne's armrest was crushed like scrap metal. He had accidentally put too much strength in his hand, crumpling it like a piece of paper. His red eyes that always looked bored, as if he had lost all emotion, were clearly trembling now.
Ha! Blend's back pulled away from the throne as he exclaimed.
He actually managed to realize the Supreme Harmony Step's true meaning in that short period of time. The Supreme Harmony Steps was not a mere footwork. It was a technique that could amplify the swordsmanship's properties with footwork. He thought it would take Raon a year at the very least to realize that, but he actually did it in less than 4 months. Since he was the one who personally taught him, he could only gasp at the impossible outcome. It's not just about the supreme harmony steps. This is his temperament as a human being. The result was created by Raon's personality, as one who doesn't run away from a crisis and advances instead. No one would believe that a 17-year-old swordsman was capable of fearlessly advancing in front of astral energy unless they saw him.
Seriously. Glenn's eyes softened. He was truly happy that such a brave young man was his grandson. He really doesn't move according to my predictions.
The Heavenly Blade leader's voice was trembling slightly. He'd been with her for a long time, but it had been a long time since the last time she had such a flustered voice.
I've never seen a child like that before.
Yes. Glenn nodded, without realizing that he was smiling. He also exceeded my expectations. Raon was an unpredictable troublemaker for him, as well.
In a good way, of course.
By the way, it's my first time seeing my lord smiling while looking at his grandson.
Humph.
Glenn immediately raised his hand to force the corners of his lips back down.
He wasn't like that 3 months ago. I don't understand what could have even happened in the meantime. Cheryl narrowed her narrow eyes even more. I'm also surprised.
I thought it would take him at least a year to harmonize the supreme harmony steps with his swordsmanship.
Glenn nodded.
He had calculated a year by taking into account Raon's talent, so doing it in 3 months was completely unexpected. He also trained the other children in the meantime. Raon wasn't the only one to get stronger, but he achieved his enormous growth while making the Light Wind members stronger.
Amazing wasn't enough to describe his achievements. Garen hadn't been careless after Raon punched him in the beginning.
Cheryl licked her lips while looking at Raon, who managed to make Garen faint.
An expert won in an all-out fight against a master. He's really rewriting history.
Yes. The corners of Glenn's mouth rose slightly once again. Many people didn't believe that Raon had defeated the seventh apostle, but the duel was going to completely remove their doubts.
He was proud of Raon for making it into an irrefutable fact.
I can finally understand why he kept talking about Raon every single time I saw him.
I hit the jackpot. I'm rich now.
Cheryl pointed at Rimmer, who was shouting from the Light Wind side with his hands raised.
I'm rich. Worship the great me.
He was causing a scene with his gambling slips in his hand.
Ahem.
Despite how he acts, he does have sharp eyes for people.
Glenn cleared his throat and leaned back against the throne.
I don't know about the qualities of a king, but his talents are certainly extraordinary. His unyielding spirit is what I like the most about him. Cheryl's eyes reflected the favorable impression she had begun to make about Raon. Apparently, she was finally starting to acknowledge him.
He will become even stronger in the future.
That's a given, since he destroyed the wall.
Did you just say he destroyed the wall?
Yes.
Raon didn't surpass the wall between master and expert. Instead, he destroyed it. But he is still. That's right. He is still not a master. Glenn nodded slowly. Most people enter a trance upon reaching master.
The martial arts they've been accumulating for a long time become their enlightenment that allows them to naturally surpass the wall.
Indeed. Cheryl nodded.
The first time she entered the trance was when she became a master as well.
However, he is different. Glenn pointed at Raon, who was looking up in the air.
He organized and established the martial arts he has learned so far during this spar to destroy the wall itself. He understands exactly what he did, and what level he has reached.
Which means, in the future as well.
He will be able to keep climbing even after he becomes a master, with no period of stagnation. When a warrior became a master and awakened from their trance, they often suffered from a decrease in their skills. They usually regained their prowess by awakening themselves through much training and meditation, but Glenn was saying that Raon wouldn't have that period of stagnation.
His natural talent.
No, he is both hard-working and talented, with luck on top of it.
There is barely anyone like him.
Glenn smiled faintly while supporting his chin on his hand. He just needs a small opportunity now to reach beyond the destroyed wall.
Then, what about making him enter the room of ego?
He should easily be able to achieve the beginner level of master, even the apprentice level of master. Cheryl suggested a way to make Raon stronger.
One can enter the room of ego only once in their lifetime. It would be a waste to go there right now. Glenn slowly shook his head. What height do you think he would be able to reach?
Sharon narrowed her eyes. She couldn't predict his future since he was already at the precipice master level at 17 years of age. She felt like she was looking up at a mountain where the fog was preventing her from seeing the summit.
Not sure.
At the very least, I think he will surpass me before he reaches 40. Since he won't have any periods of stagnation, it will take him an even shorter amount of time.
She nodded.
She wanted to deny it, but she had the feeling he was right after witnessing such an outrageous battle.
We shall pick up the tab now.
Glenn softly raised his hand.
Which tab? We made a bet about this duel's outcome, didn't we?
Cheryl swallowed nervously. She did bet against Glenn about who was going to be the winner of that duel. Just like the Golden Crest, who lost, she had completely lost the bet.
Then, I'll tell you what I want. Glenn's mouth slowly opened while watching Raon throw away Garen. That boy. The match is over.
Light Wind emerges victorious from the group duel at 35-0. The host's trembling voice announced the end of the spar that felt long and short at the same time.
Whoa! It's finally over. We don't need to get beaten up anymore. We won't get beaten up. We won't face that demon ever again. Shit!
The Light Wind members shouted that they wouldn't be beaten up anymore while wiping away their tears. They were rejoicing over the fact that they wouldn't need to fight Raon, rather than the victory against Golden Crest.
However, the happiest person was somebody else. I'm rich. Rimmer's hand trembled, holding the gambling slip. I'm rich now.
Since he was the only person who bet on a landslide victory, with no defeat for Light Wind, the odds were unimaginable. His eyes were raging with madness.
Whoa, this is a mess.
He stared at Raon, as he couldn't keep the rampaging Light Wind under control.
Silence, everyone. Huff.
One word from Raon was enough to make every single member of Light Wind shut their mouths. The entertaining part was the fact that even Rimmer fell silent. Since you won, sir, it's time for you to announce your victory condition to the Golden Crest. The host, who used to address him casually, was now speaking to him with respect in his voice.
All right. Raon stood at the center of the arena and looked up to the platform. What Light Wind wants from the Golden Crest. He stopped for a moment, and every eye in the great training ground was focused on him. Admiration, praise, surprise, hatred, jealousy.
While enjoying the countless emotions in their gazes, Raon continued.
Is there dissolution?
As soon as he finished speaking, the great training ground fell silent once again.
What did he just say? Dissolution? Seriously? I heard him too. He said dissolution. Isn't he blatantly picking a fight against the true martial palace at this point? Oh my god.
Everyone's eyes widened, as they didn't expect him to really disband the Golden Crest.
Raon Zighart.
The true martial palace master, Balder, stood up, destroying his chair in the process, despite having remained silent.
Fierce energy oppressed Raon's body, incomparable to Garen's. Did you just say you were going to disband the Golden Crest? I did. Are you insane? How can you say that if that is not the case? I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to.
Blood flowed from Raon's lips. Balder's enormous pressure opened up the internal injury that he had temporarily suppressed. Although it was extremely painful, he endured it by biting the inside of his cheek. The Golden Crest leader said he would accept any request from our side.
That means there's no reason I can't make them disband. Even then, the dissolution of a squad isn't a matter that someone like you can. He can.
A low voice interrupted Balder's speech from the highest platform. It was Cheryl, the Heavenly Blade Division leader.
She nodded while looking at Balder and Raon. I'm telling you as the notary.
He absolutely can ask for the dissolution of the Golden Crest. Heavenly Blade leader. Why are you calling out to me, true martial palace master?
This is unreasonable. Who would even think about requesting to dissolve a squad for a small bet like this? That one right there thought about it.
Cheryl calmly raised her hand to point at Raon. Golden Crest requested the duel first, and they were the ones who told him to decide on any condition.
What is the problem here? The establishment and dissolution of a squad needs the permission from the head of house. The head of house has already allowed it.
She took a glance at Glenn behind him and nodded. True martial palace master, if you think there was a problem in the conditions, you should have changed them before the match started. Blabbering after it's all over is just showing how much of a loser you are.
Heavenly Blade Division Leader.
Boulder's enormous energy wave stormed at the Heavenly Blade leader, but she remained there with her arms crossed, smiling as if she were laughing at him.
It looks like you have many complaints. If that's the case, you should have won. Raon interfered between them with a smile.
The light wind was the protagonist of the day. He couldn't allow others to attract the people's attention.
You bastard, it's all because of you. It's not because of me.
It's because of your sons, Palace Master. All I did was accept today's spar.
He tapped his scabbard as he continued. Why didn't you teach them manners and how to judge people before teaching them swordsmanship? Are you trying to take it to the bitter end? That's why I'm here. Huff. However,
Boulder's eyes turned red in rage, and Raon raised his finger before he exploded.
Since I'll look cruel if dissolution is your only option, I'll give you another choice. Another choice?
Yes. The Golden Crest shall give 80% of their profits and rewards from their activities to Light Wind for the next 4 years.
80% of profits.
I'm sure that's a pretty good condition in comparison to their dissolution.
4 years are too much.
I only added 1 year, since the Golden Crest was trying to suspend our activities for 3 years.
Coup.
Since the Golden Crest was the one that started the incident, Balder had to bite his lips, unable to respond.
Shouldn't he accept that condition without any complaints? It's way better than dissolution.
If they were to disband their squad after a humiliation like this, it will take at least 10 years to re-establish it.
That's right.
It's a pretty long time period, and lots of money, but it's better than dissolution. Dissolution.
He's letting them live at least. What a nice guy.
The spectators nodded, while saying that Balder should accept that condition without any complaints.
Raon smiled as he listened to their reactions. Of course they would say that. 80% for 4 years was pretty much turning them into slaves, but they believed that his condition was reasonable because it was far more generous than the dissolution he asked for in the beginning. Any chance the duration and percentage could be changed? No. You can just pick the dissolution if you don't want it. Rimmer. Raon adamantly shook his head, and Balder turned his face to look at Rimmer. Is this how you are going to act until the end? You are the ones who will suffer from being on bad terms with us. That's actually true.
Rimmer licked his lips, because Balder's words were convincing.
We will use half of the money from Golden Crest as public funds, and share the rest with everyone in the SQUA. Raon.
Let's make it 10 years instead of 4 and get all of their money.
Let's do that, alright? We don't need to go easy on them.
As soon as Raon mentioned they would share the money, Rimmer stopped even looking at Balder and fervently asked to increase the ratio. The scariest part was that he was completely serious.
You heard him. Raon confidently walked towards Balder. Coup. Choose now, please. You can either disband or give us the money. He raised 2 of his fingers and smiled. It was necessary to show everyone the unfiltered truth.
They would be ruined if they offended him or, rather, the Light Wind.
Chapter 200. Damn it.
Balder bit his lip, unable to respond immediately.
Raon casually watched the trembling Balder, his arms crossed.
I'm sure he's thinking about how to reduce the duration and percentage rather than which choice to pick.
It was obvious what Balder was thinking.
He was going to pick the option that had them giving up their wages and rewards, while trying to reduce the duration, percentage, or both.
But I won't allow that.
He would have gone easy on him if he were from a different organization, but that was the second incident caused by the True Martial Palace. It was necessary to thoroughly punish him.
I guess I need to help him. Raon took another step towards Balder, smiling faintly. Since you look like you are having difficulties choosing, I think I'll follow my squad leader's opinion. What?
I'll raise the duration of Golden Crest, giving us their wages and rewards to 4 years and 6 months.
Raon increased the duration that was initially 4 years to 4 years and 6 months. You crazy bastard. Balder freaked out and jumped down from the platform.
He couldn't attack him because Glenn was watching them, but he ground his teeth as if he wanted to kill him.
Who in the world would increase the duration by half a year just because I didn't respond immediately? I would. Nonsense. You've already pronounced your suggestion.
And you are the one who didn't accept that suggestion, Palace Master.
Coup. But 85% on top of 4 years and 6 months.
Raon increased the ratio from 80% to 85% while maintaining a smile on his face.
Ha!
Balder's jaw dropped at his ridiculous behavior.
Good job, Raon.
You are the best. Rimmer cheered, praising his student. He looked like a firefly that only cared about the money in front of him, regardless of the true martial palace becoming an enemy or not.
Fine. I'll accept it, so let's go with the initial condition. We'll give you 80% for 4 years. Palace Master, can you recover the river water that already flew past? What? No one can catch the river water that's already gone.
That ratio and duration are already a matter of the past.
Seriously, you crazy bastard.
A raging fire appeared in Balder's eyes. The ground he was standing on started to crumple because of his patience reaching its limit.
Balder. Gasp. Balder's body froze upon hearing Glenn's voice.
Judging from the way he freaked out just from hearing his voice in the middle of his rage, Glenn must have beaten him up severely in the past.
If you don't like this condition either, then I have no choice but to raise it again. Then, how about 5 years? Stop. I get it. I get it.
Balder raised his hands in resignation, although his face was still ferocious and deadly. 85% of the golden rewards that the Golden Crest gets for the next 4 years and 6 months will be the Light Wind's possession.
Do you accept the condition? Ha, I accept. He replied, voice sounding as pained as if Raon were chewing his bones, then nodded. Perfect. Raon nodded, then looked at the host. This concludes the group duel between Golden Crest and Light Wind.
The sound of the gong followed his declaration, announcing the end of the match.
You'd better not think this is over.
Balder gave him a killing glare, then left the training ground while carrying the unconscious Garen on his shoulder. His expression and attitude suggested that he was going to take revenge instead of giving up. He still cares for his son, at least. Although he had a violent personality, he was way better than the cold-blooded man who threw his son away just because he didn't meet his expectations.
It's over. Oh, my lucky charm.
Raon breathed out a sigh of relief and was about to leave when Rimmer ran up to him and started shaking him by his shoulders.
My beloved Vice Squad leader, you are making me feel alive. You are the light of my life.
Rimmer prostrated in front of him as if he were worshipping him. He took a glance behind him to bob his hand at the Light Wind members.
What are you doing right now? Your Vice Squad leader brought us lots of money just now. What? What about that? You need to thank him. But we just got beaten up for 3 months straight. Whatever, come here already.
Although Rimmer smiled towards Raon, he frowned towards the other Light Wind members.
I saw what you did just now.
Wrath slowly raised himself to float in front of Raon's eyes.
The way you made a fool of your opponent until the end to take all of the profit, you should really be a demon instead.
Worship our light and salt, the Vice Squad leader.
Shut up, all of you. Is he really 17 years old?
He has the true martial palace master in the palm of his hand, even though they should have a huge difference in experience. He looks even better in a battle of words than in a battle of swords. He has the prowess and judgment to defeat a master on top of his appearance.
My life feels so sad. What's the temperature of the Terran River?
It's only a matter of time before he becomes a squad leader at this point.
How did they raise a monster like him?
Because Raon managed to overwhelm Balder both with his speech and situation, he looked like a monster to the Sieghart swordsman.
One thing that's certain is that Rimmer isn't the one who did it. That's true. He didn't do anything today, either.
I heard that's what he usually does.
He just lays down. Isn't he just a squad leader in name only then? As expected of Sir Rimmer, I guess. They snickered, watching Rimmer tossing Raon into the air.
Although most of the spectators were either surprised or enjoying the event, Karun Sieghart was frowning.
Tisk. Karun clicked his tongue while watching Balder leaving with Garen on his shoulder. That idiot.
He could understand Balder panicking because of Garen's loss against Raon, but what he said and did after that was the worst. He was toyed with by the lowest rank collateral, who was no better than an insect, and his 17-year-old child on top of that.
It was so stupid that he couldn't even laugh at that point. He's still as thoughtless as ever.
Since the Golden Crest leader fainted and he was the one who asked for the duel, he just needed to postpone the negotiation and pressure him with the power of the true martial palace. There was no need for him to conclude the matter on the spot, but he was toyed with by Raon like an idiot and messed everything up. He just ended up giving him various supporters. Raon won against a master that day, and literally toyed with Balder, the true martial palace master. That incident would become a huge hope for the collaterals and people from outside who were defying the direct line.
It will be annoying for a while. No, this is even better.
A cold light appeared in Karun's eyes for an instant. They will never try defying us ever again if I completely destroy the hope that has appeared after such a long time.
His face turned sour as he watched Bayan throw Raon into the air. Maybe I need to call that insect back. Knock knock.
A clear knocking sound could be heard as Darius Robert was looking out of his office window, where sunlight was flooding in.
Enter.
A butler whose silver-gray hair was hiding one of his eyes opened the door and entered before bowing at him.
My lord, we have received the results of the investigation you ordered last time.
Darius slowly turned his head. He slowly nodded, his expression not changing in the slightest.
Is it the investigation on Raon Sieghart?
Yes.
The butler nodded, gathering his hands in front of him.
The black market reported that the rumor about Raon Sieghart defeating the seventh apostle is 90% true.
If the black market said it was 90%, then it means it is pretty much certain. Auctioning rare items and gambling weren't the main sources of income of the black market.
It had the best intelligence capabilities, and that was their real source of money.
And if they said it was 90% true, then it was pretty much certain. Yes. Yes. It's unbelievable, but it seems to be the truth.
They said that the story about the young sword demon who jumped down from Haben Castle's walls to stop the monster wave was also true.
What about his age?
He is indeed 17 years old.
A 17-year-old expert defeated a master. Darius exclaimed at the unbelievable information.
Becoming an expert at 17 years of age was common, but a 17-year-old expert defeating a master was an unprecedented occurrence in the history of the continent. Even his youngest son, who became one of the 12 stars of the continent after being called an unprecedented genius, was nothing compared to him when he was 17 years old.
He wanted to meet Raon, to see what kind of person he was. Is there any other information? It looked like the black market was also having difficulties because Sieghart usually doesn't disclose their information.
All of the remaining information was mostly trivial. The butler lowered his head to apologize.
What about the shadows I sent to the north?
They are barely getting any information either, as they haven't managed to settle down yet. I think it would be better to recover those that were recently dispatched.
No. Darius shook his head with a frown. Dispatch more of them. Pardon?
Make sure to investigate the matter thoroughly. Everything, including whose son he is, who taught him, what kind of swordsmanship he learned, and who was close to him.
His talent is certainly outrageous, but do we really need to go that far? He shouldn't even be a master yet. It's even more frightening because he's not a master. Darius's face was frozen.
A young boy who hasn't even become a master managed to defeat a master.
If he ended up becoming a master, or even reached a higher level, what do you think will happen?
He might end up rewriting the entire history of the continent, and even reach my position eventually. He pointed at the position of House Robert's head of house, which he was currently occupying. That is how fearsome he is, because his talent is on a different level.
You understood. We are bound to clash against Sieghart one day. Follow the plan and renew all the information about Sieghart, including information on the boy named Raon. Yes. The butler answered firmly, as if he were trying to make up for his mistake. How did it go with House Yonan? Darius nodded in satisfaction at the butler's response before sitting at the window.
We've injected it into the youngest daughter of the head of house. Since the doctors, healers, and even the priests couldn't do anything for her, he shall start requesting aid everywhere now.
Make sure to not respond immediately.
We need to slowly extend a helping hand while pretending that it is a coincidence. That way, we can earn as much as possible from his stubborn bloodline.
Of course. The butler bowed before leaving the office. Soon. It's really happening soon.
Darius narrowed his eyes, looking out the window.
I shall remove every obstacle beforehand. Raon went to the medical detachment to take care of his internal injury, then returned to the annex building.
His insides were still hurt, but he was in a much better condition than when he fought against the seventh apostle.
You shouldn't move for the next 2 days, okay?
Sylvia laid him in bed to make him rest and grabbed his shoulders.
I'm going to tie you up if you move around again.
Raon could see the determination in her eyes, probably because he coughed up a lot of blood. You shouldn't even think about leaving the bed, since the maids are also going to take turns guarding the room 24 hours a day. Even Helen narrowed her eyes at him, although he thought she'd be on his side.
Ha, I got it. Raon sighed heavily and nodded. I'll rest quietly until I recover. I'll be watching. I believe in you. The two left only after Raon gave them his answer. This isn't too bad either.
Because no one told him anything like that in his previous life, and he knew that they were worried about him, he didn't really dislike their nagging.
That's not how you should be. Wrath popped up on the bracelet with a frown on his face. Demons don't need anything like a family's love. Power.
Having all your desires focused on getting stronger is how a demon should be.
Isn't that your desire, not a demon's? I'm sure that not every demon lives like you do. Of course. The King of Essence is special. No one is as focused on getting stronger as the King of Essence.
That's why I'm revered as the Monarch of Wrath, and as the strongest among the demon kings.
It should be gluttony, not wrath. You are wrong. Stop taking me for that weak rabbit.
He screamed, shaking his head violently.
Anyway.
You are still far too weak right now, but I took a liking to your personality, your insatiable hunger for power, and your fighting spirit.
Wrath lowered the corners of his lips slightly and nodded. The King of Essence will take good care of you if you become a demon. Can a human being even become a demon? Of course. Many humans have become demons in the past. How do I do that? You first offer your body to the King of Essence. I refuse. Raon waved his hand, then closed his eyes.
He wanted to see what he was going to tell him, but it was pointless.
It's true.
You will obtain an incomparable power if the King of Essence descends upon you and increases the level of your body and soul.
Okay, I'm not buying it.
He shook his hand, as if he were chasing away a door-to-door salesperson. He thought Wrath had given up because he hadn't spoken about it for a while, but that was apparently not the case. He was still targeting his body.
TSK, it didn't work. Wrath clicked his tongue in regret. Obviously. Do you think I'm an idiot? However, I wasn't lying about taking a liking to you. If you want, I'll tell you how a human being can become a demon. First of all. Wait.
As he was about to tell Raon how to become a demon, messages appeared in front of his eyes. You've achieved another impossible victory. The Ring of Fire's proficiency has increased. The perception of the Snowflower's rank has increased to 4 stars.
All stats have increased by 6.
They were the messages from receiving the achievement of defeating a master while being an expert himself. The rank of the perception of the Snowflower and all stats had increased at the same time.
Ugh. Wow.
While Raon was admiring and reading the message, a second set of messages appeared. You've realized the true meaning of the Supreme Harmony steps.
You've achieved something impossible at your current level. All stats have increased by 7.
Looking at the points that had increased once again, Raon clenched his fist while inhaling deeply. Whir! The change in his body created a burning pain before soaking his entire body in a refreshing vitality, as if he were bathing in cold water. The pain from his internal injury had also completely disappeared.
13 points in one go. Raon smiled, grasping his throbbing heart. He could feel his increased power because he had gained so many stats at once. It looked like he would need to focus on training for a while to get used to the stats. And I even got another rank in the perception of the snowflower. Perception of the snowflower was a trait that increased the range and sensitivity of his aura perception. He liked it even more because it had a great synergy with him, as he was an assassin in his past life. Damn it. Wrath was crushed by the rising messages, his eyes trembling. Do you really believe you deserve to gain so much from an inferior achievement like that? Spit it out, if you have a conscience. I don't have one. Raon resolutely shook his head. You told me I was like a demon. Did you ever see a demon spitting out what they already ate? Aren't you even going to ask how to spit it out? That would be an unnecessary question. He had no intention of spitting out a reward like that, not even if his stomach burst. You are really more demonic than a demon. Is that a compliment? Raon smiled at Wrath, who was trembling in anger. By the way, what did you say earlier? How do I become a demon? I'm never going to tell you. Wrath violently shook his head. The whole of Devil Dom will be sucked dry if you become a demon.
1 week later, Raon had completely recovered from his internal injury, and went out to the annex building's open area. Naturally, he felt excited as he felt the wind for the first time in a long time. After a light warm-up, he drew Heavenly Drive. Holding the sword's grip made him feel alive. It looked like he'd become a real swordsman. Whoosh! He used the Supreme Harmony's 6th step along with the star-connecting sword. The aura appearing on the white silver blade flew away like an aloof river to engulf the entire open area. The principle of softness that was already incorporated in the star-connecting sword was maximized by the Supreme Harmony's 6th step. The way even the dappled sunlight was deflected by his sword was such a mysterious sight. Screech! He then used the Supreme Harmony's 5th step while striking with the fangs of insanity. The untamed beast's fangs became even sharper, shredding the atmosphere. I knew it wasn't just my imagination. Just like he felt during the fight against Garen, the Supreme Harmony steps were capable of enhancing a swordsmanship's characteristics and power. Using the 6th step at the same time as a soft technique enabled a robust defense that could deflect astral energy, and using the 5th step along with a powerful technique created a ferocious blade that could even pierce through a layer of astral energy. Attack, defense, evasion, and counterattack. It was an extraordinary footwork that could be used in many ways. It's giving me internal injuries, though. It could strengthen one's swordsmanship, but the recoil was also significant. The internal injury he received during the last fight was partly because of the Supreme Harmony steps. I suppose nothing is perfect in the world. There were bound to be demerits if there were merits. Since the Supreme Harmony steps were made by Glenn when he was at a higher level than him, it was overexerting his body in his current state. He would have still been lying in bed like a dead man if the stats weren't strengthening his body. Let's try it. Raon gathered all of his aura and poured it into Heavenly Drive. Kring! With a majestic sword resonance, a red light appeared on the blade. The aura blades that were as thin as thread tangled with each other to become aura thread, and the aura threads gathered like flower petals to form a gorgeous line. Burst! An extensive light similar to a comet appeared on the blade of Heavenly Drive. The gathering of vivid aura was astral energy. Screech! However, the astral energy didn't last long and withered like candlelight in front of the wind. Tisk! Raon clicked his tongue and lowered Heavenly Drive. I knew it wouldn't work. The master wall that was right in front of his eyes certainly collapsed after he refined the martial arts he'd learned so far during the spar against Garen. However, he didn't manage to become a master. He was in a strange situation where he couldn't surpass the collapsed wall. I don't understand. He didn't seem to be an expert nor a master. He had killed masters in his previous life, but since he had never become a master himself, he couldn't understand what state he was in.
Wrath. What's up? What is my current level?
I don't think I'm an expert nor a master.
Why are you asking the King of Essence? I've recently been eating anything you want to eat. Can't you answer that, at least?
While he was resting in the annex building, he ate every food and snack that Wrath wanted to eat. And Wrath was praising every single dish to the point that he forgot his stats had been taken away.
Wrath licked his lips, feeling guilty. You are at the border. Border? The thing you humans call the Master Wall. You are currently standing on the collapsed wall. I knew it.
Just as he expected, he wasn't currently a master nor an expert.
How can I advance one step forward from here? You need a trigger. Trigger?
Yes, a trigger that will make you extend your foot.
And how can I find that trigger? I don't know. What?
The King of Essence couldn't even feel a trivial wall like that. I leapt over 2 or 3 levels at once at the beginning.
Since I've never worried about anything like that, I obviously don't know. How condescending. The Demon King was completely useless in that aspect. I should try a bit more.
He tried creating astral energy a few more times, but the aura kept melting down, unable to maintain its form, just like before.
I guess I can't do it right now. Raon licked his lips in regret. I shouldn't try too hard, then.
In fact, he was already growing at a rate that couldn't be called human. If he just kept doing his best at training like he had so far, he should be able to advance before he knew it.
I'll continue just as I always have.
As he fixed his grip and was about to practice his swordsmanship, the perception of the snowflower, which had leveled up recently, managed to detect someone's presence. It was from above the tree behind him.
Please come out.
Since it was a familiar presence, he bobbed his hand towards the person at the top of the tree.
I know you are there. Damn it.
A purple-haired woman jumped down, grumbling. The person, with narrow eyes and a small body, was the Heavenly Blade leader, Cheryl. She had a noticeable sword on her back.
How did you notice me? You lost your breath for an instant.
Of course, I would. I witnessed something ridiculous. Cheryl walked up to Raon with a frown, standing in front of him. Her eyes were trembling slightly in bewilderment.
Do you have anything to tell me?
He thought he wouldn't need to see her ever again, but he ended up encountering her already.
How's your body? I've almost recovered. That should be fine, then.
Cheryl examined Raon's body from the top to bottom, as if she were trying to confirm his condition, before extending her hand.
Take care of a matter with me.